Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Ah, shit, I left the camera on. Welcome to the FliteCast, a place where opinions aren't right or wrong, and where we can agree or disagree about movies, TV, and other assorted media because it's all subjective. My name is Ray. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to the first video episode of the FliteCast. I've been talking about this for weeks. Haven't done an episode of the main show in a while, and because I've been moving the show into the video era, finally, I'm in the 21st century, right? Finally, no more audio only. But hey, you know what? For those of you who still like listening to this show in audio format, it's still available at theflightcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Stitcher, whether it's Pandora, whatever it is. Did I say Stitcher? No, what I meant to say was Spotify. It is on Spotify, yes indeed. So, or wherever you get your pods, whichever podcatcher you use. I know some of you use third-party software, but if you want to watch the show, you can now watch it here on YouTube or at theflightcast.com. Either way. But hey, how's it going? Good to see everybody. I know a number of you were probably used to seeing me on Vodka Stream and whatnot, but now I've got my own video to post once again on my website. This, for people who haven't seen it, is in fact the studio, and it's as nerdy as you could possibly think. Like back here, we've got my, not even half of my physical media collection. Seriously, it's not. Like this is an IKEA shelf that has like the special editions and limited edition stuff as well. And I've got posters here, right? Obviously, the Victor Koo, Zack Snyder's Justice League poster that we got at the screening. Of course, got the Black Panther and Captain America up there. You can't really see them here, but you know what? You can see them here, right behind me. Right there's the better view of the Captain America, well, a little bit better view. Winter Soldier, right? The best MCU movie made, and then of course Black Panther up there, and you can't totally see it. I'll fix the camera angle later, but it says it's all subjective, my mantra up there as well. So, oh, and this wall is a little bit bare because right above the Enterprise D, the Lego Enterprise D, which thank you again, Anthony Dorsey, for that tip way back when last year. I am going to eventually put this up. This, for people who are watching, is a 1,000-piece Star Trek TNG puzzle that I definitely want to put together, and it's the second time I've had it. I used to have that puzzle. I got gifted that puzzle a long time ago for Christmas, and it got destroyed, through one of the many moves that I've had in life, and it just, never got a chance to, salvage it. But I finally replaced it last year. I bought one off of eBay, and I'm going to rebuild it. I'm going to frame it. I'm going to put it right up there above the Enterprise D. So stay tuned for that. I got to get a surface or table or whatnot to put that together as well. And then there's this side over here where I've got more. This is that's the Criterion shelf right there. That's like all of my Criterions, right? I've got some Steelbook sets and whatnot there. And you might be thinking that a Star Trek puzzle might be a little redundant to put up in this office, considering that I have a cutaway of the original NCC 1701 from the original series, and also a cutaway of Deep Space Nine. But if you've listened to the show, you know that Star Trek is my favorite franchise of all time. And of course, Batman Arkham City, that's from my GameStop days. That's when I used to work at GameStop. That was one of the many posters of marketing that we had around the store that I definitely kept with me. Because, of course, I'm a huge Batman fan for sure. But yeah, that's the studio. So, hey, if this is your first time seeing it, like, again, if you haven't seen it on Vodka Stream before with Dave the Film Junkie, hey, this is where I do all of my work. This is where I do all of my nerding out. So, with that in mind, just before I get into today's show, like the main stuff, I did want to mention that the format of the show is going to be changing just a bit. And this is really for people who are longtime listeners. If you're a new listener, not a big deal. Few housekeeping things. The format of the show is obviously going to change a little bit because I mentioned on Patreon the other day on Flight Speed, which of course, patreon.com/theflightcast if you want to become a flight officer and get access to bonus material like episodes of Flight Speed, which I record on my way home from work, or Friday Flight, or bonus episodes of Flight Review and Flight Box where I talk about movies and TV and whatnot. That and tons of other content is available there at that site, patreon.com/theflightcast. But I was talking the other day on it about how because of the video workflow with respect to these shows, it is going to demand a more, I guess, not brisker pace, but just shorter length episodes. I ramble. I do. I ramble a whole lot. And I really do appreciate you guys enjoying my ramblings, but I've got to get more efficient with it. I do. If we're going to do video for sure. So these episodes are going to be a bit shorter. They're going to be probably targeted within, I guess, I don't know, 30, 35 minutes, somewhere around that. But don't worry, that's more than enough time for me to talk about things. And I realize that this is the first episode of the show that I've done in a couple of weeks. And not a whole lot has happened in the last couple of weeks, right? No. I mean, we still have no idea whether the Warner Brothers deal is going to get finalized, and there's been no new trailers for anything DC or comic book related, right? No, we're just waiting on Supergirl. It's all good, right? No, it most certainly has not been quiet whatsoever. All right, here we go. So let's dive into it first. We got to talk about this Paramount-Warner Bros. Thing, because that was a surprise. To me, it was a surprise, right? Because I thought that the board would side with Paramount, the Warner Brothers board. I thought they would side with, not Paramount, pardon me, that they would side with Netflix and, honor the original offer. And it did seem like that was going to happen, but the Ellisons and Paramount just kept upping the ante and finally got to $31 a share, right? And it's $110 billion that they're preparing to spend to buy Warner Brothers, to buy the whole kit and caboodle, right? So they're not just buying, the studios and streamers are also buying Discovery Global, which will include CNN and the linear cable networks. They're buying the whole thing, right? And this is because they raised their offer to $31 a share. And Ted Sarandos and Netflix basically said, yeah, we'll pass. That's too rich for our blood. And they walked away from it. And so now it's free and clear. And for the last, 2 weeks, David Ellison has been making the rounds, and he's been talking about, all of what they're going to do and how they are going to consolidate the studio assets, right? They're going to move some things off the Paramount lot and the Warner Brothers lot. He does want to combine HBO Max and Paramount Plus into, one particular app. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that he's been talking about with respect to what he wants to do. And look, I know that so many people, with respect to the Paramount deal, have just been screaming bloody murder and, oh my goodness, Armageddon is coming. This is horrible. This is the worst case scenario. Everybody worried. Everybody's scared about what Paramount's going to do. Let me be abundantly clear with respect to my position on this. And I've said this before. I've told you that I thought Netflix was the worst case scenario with respect to buying Warner Brothers. And my opinion on that has not changed. And I'm really not here for all of the lazy political nonsense. And I do think it's lazy. I'm just being completely honest with you. I think it's lazy to just brand this as, oh my goodness, this is a political nightmare because now they're going to turn CNN into state-run media. And now this is just all going to be alt-right and Batman's going to wear a red hat. No, I've said this before. MAGA doesn't sell. It doesn't. And Hollywood has behaved this way. They've understood this the entirety of the time. Otherwise, we would see way more MAGA content sell. Otherwise, Zootopia 2 wouldn't have made nearly $2 billion, right? Didn't it make a ton of money recently, right? You wouldn't see movies like Hoppers come out. I just saw Hoppers, by the way, back on Friday. I did record a flight review episode for it. The audio didn't turn out all that great, so unfortunately I didn't post it. But I did give a small review of it, if you will, on Flight Speed, again, at patreon.com/theflightcast. But look, Starfleet Academy wouldn't have gotten, continued to go to series, and wouldn't have, the second season wouldn't have continued filming. That would have been scrapped, right? Ellison's could have totally done the David Zaslav Batgirl situation and just written it off and just said, well, we don't need any of this woke garbage. So everybody that is so fearful about Paramount being so political with Warner Brothers, I think is asinine. I really do. I'm not saying there's no politics involved in this at all, but you got to remember that before chasing red and blue, these CEOs and these studios chase green first. And I've said for weeks that the Ellisons couldn't allow this to happen. They had to kick and scream and fight tooth and nail to make certain that Netflix didn't get this merger. Now, I read an article earlier today that said that Paramount actually has a larger library of content than Warner Brothers. I think that's interesting because I wasn't aware that was the case. I'd have to dig further into that, but this Hollywood Reporter article that I picked up earlier today, which has more words from David Ellison, if you will, the CEO of Paramount Skydance, He was saying that this article says that Paramount has a larger library, and they do want to put the two services together, and he says it'll give them a little over 200 million direct-to-consumer subscribers. He says, we think that really positions us to compete with the leaders in this space. Time out. He doesn't mean the leaders in this space. He means the leader, which is Netflix. And he has said that from day one. He wants to compete with Netflix. And there was absolutely no way that any app on this earth, Paramount, Peacock, or otherwise, was ever going to compete with Netflix if they added Warner Brothers' library. Because even if Paramount does have a larger library than Warner Brothers, still, adding that library to Netflix's already largest library, regardless of what you think of its content, would have made it insurmountable. The only way that the other studios could have competed is if they all banded together. So this was a last-ditch effort. They had to make this work. Otherwise, there was no competition whatsoever. Now, mergers in Hollywood absolutely are game changers. We've seen this already. We saw it with AT&T Time Warner. We certainly saw it with Disney Fox. And we're going to see it again here. People, unfortunately, are going to lose jobs. There's going to be redundancies, way more redundancies now because you're combining two traditional studios into one entity. Yeah, it's not going to be good for workers. It isn't. It's not going to be good for the ecosystem of Hollywood in general. The unions and everybody have a right to be concerned about it. But you as the fan, with all this worry about what's going to happen to DC Studios and what's going to happen to this franchise and that franchise, here's the deal. The major IP, and look, if I'm wrong, then fine. I'll address that when we get to that, when we cross that bridge, if you will. But the major IP that this combined company is going to have is going to be the bread and butter. Because I firmly believe that, just listening to David Ellison and everybody else at Paramount speak on this, they're really looking at this from a content creation standpoint. I know everybody talks about the CNN thing and you're worried about that. The linear cable networks are not doing well for anyone right now. Everybody is pretty much cutting the cord and going to streaming, right? But they still want to recoup whatever they can, as far as advertising dollars and PSAs and whatever, that type of thing on linear, because there's still a linear audience out there, right? So yeah, okay. They combine the cable audience, which, by the way, for people that are concerned about CNN getting converted, the same way that, things have been happening at CBS News, CNN is a cable network. I imagine it's going to be a significantly different structure as far as that is concerned. So I just think that all the worries, all the political worries, and all the emotional fears that people have over this, are really short-sighted. And you got to look at the money. You got to look at the dollars and cents of this. It doesn't make any sense for David Ellison to just jettison James Gunn or Alex Kurtzman, right? Those are his two biggest IP heads right now at this point. And mind you, we've got another year or so of regulatory hoopla before this deal actually comes to fruition. But still, we're talking about James Gunn and Peter Safran, the heads of DC Studios. They're in charge, and they're the ones that are primarily in charge of putting together the DC IP content that the Ellisons and Paramount are going to need to be able to compete with Netflix. Because this is a case where you've got to, rest on your big franchises in order to be able to get this done, in order to be able to really compete on the streaming level. And that doesn't mean you fire anybody. That doesn't mean that you just all of a sudden jettison the 8 to 10 year plan that Gunn and Safran put together for David Zaslav. And mind you, David Zaslav okayed this plan a couple years ago. And if you don't think that he and the Ellisons and Sarandos and all these CEOs talk, that's the biggest thing that I hope people can understand about this, is that the club that you should be concerned about is the one percenters, the CEOs, okay? They are not your friends. I saw way too many people cheering for Ted Sarandos and hoping that he could save the day. That's so lazy, and that's so asinine, and that's so corporatist. Ted Sarandos is not your friend. And neither are, the Ellisons or, Zaslav or any of these CEOs. They're in this for the business. They're in this to make money. It's not about saving a studio or an IP from some other evil big bad corporation. No. We live at a point in time where deregulation is at an all-time high, corporately speaking, and these corporations are going to get away with it and make hay while the sun shines as long as they're able to. Because the second anything changes in Congress, they're not going to be able to do this with the same impunity as far as combining and consolidating forces to really try and compete in the streaming market. So that's what this is about, guys. That's what's going on here. And it really doesn't make any logistical sense to be this worried about DC Studios to be this worried about Star Trek. If you're worried about the content that much, if you think Gunn's going to be on his way out, or worse, if you're somebody hoping that this is his ticket out of here because the Ellisons don't like what he's going to do, and this is going to be the key to bring back Zack Snyder, just go to the loony bin right now. Seriously, go get mental. Loony bin is such an antiquated term. I just showed my age on that one. Go seek professional help immediately. If you think that this is the ticket to get Zack Snyder back in charge of DC, go seek professional help immediately, because we are so past that. He is so past that. And James Gunn and Peter Safran are not going anywhere. They're going to remain as the heads of DC Studios, unless for whatever reason they decide to walk. And it won't be political reasons, guys. It will not be. There are plenty of red hats, if you will, that work on crews, on James Gunn movies and whatnot, and maybe they don't make their politics loud or whatnot. But you know how many people work in Hollywood? You know how many people work in these studios? You think Gunn and Safran are going to employ only liberals, or going to employ only people on one side of the aisle? And I know we can have the morality discussion, ifs, buts, and candy and nuts and all that stuff. I get it, right? We're not doing the whole both sides routine in this regard with respect to politics, because I'm not afraid of talking about politics and whatnot. But all this worry and all this consternation, no, it's dollars and cents, guys. Dollars and cents tells us that DC Studios is going to stay where it is and continue forward, and the only way that their plan would ever get messed with is if they start losing money for David Ellison and Paramount. If it starts becoming a financial burden, that would be a problem. And yeah, I know, $79 billion. Yes, I get that. But they're going to have to invest in their IP and their content in order to start recouping that money. And DC Comics will become their biggest IP. It'll become bigger than Star Trek. DC is older than Star Trek, right? Star Trek is my favorite franchise of all time. DC will be bigger. DC is bigger, right? Like, I can admit that, because there's nothing to admit. It's the truth in that regard. But those are your two biggest IPs. There are. Sorry, Transformers fans. Sorry, Harry Potter fans. Sorry, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans. DC, Star Trek. Two of my favorite franchises in the world are about to be under one umbrella, and David Ellison should lean heavily into both of those franchises for the content success if he really wants to challenge Netflix in the streaming era. And everything that he has said, from the town hall when he originally said that they were chasing Netflix, to his thoughts about how he wished Paramount had bought Marvel Studios when they were in the pole position too in 2009 before Disney pulled the trigger on that. Like, all of this and all what he's talking about in terms of consolidation, he keeps bringing up how they'll have over 200 million subscribers because he knows Netflix, The Godfather, has over 300 million. And again, he's targeting them. Everything he's telling me, everything he's saying out loud says he wants to be the next Netflix. He wants to chase them. He wants to build this big company. I have no idea if it'll work. I know plenty of people that don't think it will work. But I am willing to sit here and, not pass fearful knee-jerk judgment and wait and see exactly how it plays out. Because we know Supergirl is going to still come out in June of this year. We know Lanterns is still coming out in August now. We have a release date, for a month at least, for that. And we know Clayface is coming out now in October. At least I think October, right? Didn't they change that release date from September to October? I don't know if they made that official. But either way, we know that's happening. And we know Man of Tomorrow is in pre-production, about to start filming. We know that. Those things are happening. And then after that, any decisions that occur with respect to DC Studios will be financially driven. Just like the current decisions right now with respect to these mergers are financially driven. So that's a long and short of it, guys. All this other political nonsense and whatnot, no. Takes a backseat to the money. Always. Everything in this country takes backseat to the money and is manipulated by the money. Remember that. And you can have a way easier time adjudicating all this stuff as fans, truthfully. Now, I mentioned Lanterns. And like I said, it's not like we had a trailer for that come out. Oh, yeah, we did. The first trailer for Lanterns dropped last week. And look, I already posted online on Threads. If you follow me on Threads, I posted what my thoughts were on it. I think it looks awesome. Seriously, I caught some True Detective people were talking about making those comparisons. I definitely caught a hint of Logan. Got that Western vibe. Obviously, I like Kyle Chandler. Obviously, I like Aaron Pierre. I thought it looked great. Seriously, and the reason that I thought it looked great is probably the same reason that a number of the trolls and the pearl clutchers are pissed off about it, because it looks different. I didn't want the show to look and feel like Superman, and it doesn't. It doesn't at all, right? It doesn't even look and feel like Peacemaker. It's an adult show, clearly. There's F-bombs and cursing and whatnot. You got Hal Jordan cursing at Jon Stewart, right? Talking about, effing, what did he say? One of them, effing squirrels, something like that. Talking about the other lanterns and everything, right? Like, it's an adult show. An HBO quality show, right? We're talking The Wire, we're talking The Sopranos, we're talking Game of Thrones, we're talking, that level of content. The Penguin, right? That's what I think about when I look at this show, when I look at the trailer for this show, and that's the mindset that I'm in, and I want that for this show because I want the DCU to be truly diverse in its content. I don't want everything to be the same. We want to avoid the problem that we had, that a lot of us subjectively had with the MCU, right? I love the MCU, okay? I own all 37 MCU movies and glorious 4K Steelbook right over there on the shelf that you can't see off camera. But I don't like the fact, like, I would like more diversity in terms of tone, I should say, right? I've got tiers for the MCU, and a lot of it feels similar, right? Especially when they went to digital cameras, a lot of things looked and felt the same. And look, Marvel Studios, they have a look, they have a feel. Great. They remain consistent with that. But I like to see creative variety, and we're finally going to get to see that. It looks like we're finally going to get to see that. Because Superman doesn't look like Peacemaker, right? They share the same universe, not the same vibes whatsoever, right? Creature Commandos, which I still haven't watched. Can you believe I still haven't watched that show? I still need to watch that show. But Creature Commandos, animated, that's a vibe and a tone all on its own. Supergirl looks and feels like it's got a totally different vibe. Phil Barker, a great friend of the show, has his own channel, Unfiltered. Did not care for Superman. He and I still need to have a, come to Zod meeting with respect to that, because I do want to have an actual insightful discussion with him about what he didn't like about that film. But he didn't care for Superman. He is really excited for Supergirl. That's what I want. I want different tones for the DCU. And what Supergirl looks like it's going to do is not going to be the same as what Lanterns looks like it's going to do. And Clayface is probably going to be even more different than that, since it's a lower budget body horror type of film. This is what I want. I want different tones in the DCU. I want variety. I celebrate variety. I celebrate difference. And that's why I'm not freaking out over Hal's costume. And that it's such a surface level complaint. I mean, fans are so predictable. The pearl clutchers and the gatekeepers are so predictable when it comes to fan complaints. This is no different than complaining about Superman not smiling enough, or his S-curl being off, or the colors being muted on his costume, or him not saving enough cats or squirrels out of trees and stuff like that, right? It's the Trunks argument. It's the argument as far as, like, whether Batman should have short or long ears. It's superficial nonsense is what it is. You're that worried about the fact that his costume doesn't show flashy green. And not only that, but fans also get so lazy and so reductive with their arguments that they will change history. They'll, like, go to the Wayback Machine or the DeLorean or whatever, and they will try to change history and make everybody think, oh no, actually the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie wasn't that bad. Shut up. Shut the hell up. I didn't hate that movie. I still don't hate that movie. I know a lot of you did. I know a lot of you still do. Ryan Reynolds doesn't like that movie. Do we need to pull the Deadpool jokes out? He's already made fun of that movie. Stop re-adjudicating it just because you're upset at what Hal's costume looked like. That's on you. It's a superficial complaint. The show's called Lanterns. Clearly, it's not just going to be about them creating constructs and doing crazy stuff out in space. And Anthony, I just remembered, Anthony Dorsey, one of my very loyal listeners, thank you, Anthony. I remember I told you that I was going to tell you why it was okay with it not showing, all the constructs and being quite as cosmic. And literally, it's everything that I just said. I want Lanterns to be different. I like that it's grounded. I like that it is a grittier take on the Green Lantern concept, a grittier take on Hal Jordan, a grittier take on Jon Stewart. I want it to be different. I don't want it to be the same. I don't want it to feel like Superman. I don't want it to feel like Supergirl or any of the others. I want it to stand on its own while still taking place in the same universe, still being connected to all those properties. That, to me, is true creative diversity within a shared cinematic universe. And I am looking forward to it a great deal. And I could give less than two shits how muted the green looks on his costume. It's such a cheesy, chintzy, superficial complaint. And fans are notorious for that. Fans are annoyingly notorious for that. Oh, it's not green enough. Is there any green in the trailer? You whiny crybabies. Yes, there's green in the trailer. I saw it. I saw plenty of it. Oh, it's not the bright green. It's not the Ryan Reynolds green. Yeah, okay. Whatever. Look, this is no different. I mean, and when I see all these regurgitators and comicbook.com and everything, the polarizingly divisive latest, it's not divisive because it's the 5 to 10% of morons that are saying this. It's not even 5 to 10%. Fans make up 5 to 10% of the audience, like, give or take, if you will, right? I know people have been like, Ray, where are the numbers on that? Well, look, guys, do you really think that we contribute that much to the overall box office of a film? You think Superman made $615 million last year because you think we contributed half of that? I don't think we did. I really don't. The general audience is what dictates the box office success of these films and also of these shows, right, on streamers and whatnot, as far as numbers are concerned. And we're not the majority of the audience and as a whole. We are the small vocal minority. And within our vocal minority is a louder vocal minority that hates everything and can only be miserable, like, in order to be happy in that regard. Misery is their happiness. And it's the same people that complain about Superman not smiling enough, the same people that complain about the Snyderverse being the murderverse. They're all part of the same thing. The Snyder's cult and the anti-Snyder cult, the people who hang on to Superman 78, or Superman the movie from 1978 rather, like, oh my goodness, it's the greatest Superman movie ever. All Superman movies should be exactly like that. No, they shouldn't. Absolutely not. Superman's been around for over 80 years. Diversity is welcome with respect to that character and his interpretations. Whatever. Fans are so entitled, and they're so snobby, and they're so gatekeepery, and that subset, these complaints are no surprise, because this is what they do. This is what they complain about. And whatever. Damon Lindelof, Tom King, HBO, you're not giving me any reasons logistically to worry about this show. I already like the cast. I already like the tone and feel of the trailer. And now those guys are involved in it. Damon Lindelof, Watchmen people, the Watchmen show. Remember the Watchmen show? The sequel, that's actually the sequel to the book. I saw somebody on Threads earlier today talk about how they didn't know that it was a sequel to the movie. No, it's not a sequel, technically, to Zack Snyder's film, which was also excellent. But he changed a few things as far as, not a lot, but a few things as far as what happens in the book. Not a whole lot. He just changed a couple of the machinations. But no, the show that Damon Lindelof came out with in 2019, that is a direct sequel to the book, which I have read multiple times. And it was phenomenally done. And you want me to doubt that guy when it comes to the Lanterns TV show? Get the F out of here. Absolutely not. So, no. I will enjoy being happier than any pearl clutcher and any gatekeeper that is complaining about not being enough green in the Lanterns trailer and not being enough this and not being enough that. Go ahead, whine, complain, cry. James Gunn and Peter Safran are not Walter Hamada. They're not Jeff Johns, sorry Phil, and John Berg. They're not the old DC Films morons. They're not Toby Emmerich. They're not Ann Sarnoff. They're not any of those goofs. They have a plan, and they're going to stick to it. Right? They're not going to knee-jerk because you decide to review bomb the damn thing on the hell site Rotten Tomatoes or on YouTube.com or wherever. They're not going to just listen to your whims like the old guard did. So, cry and whine as long as you like. It will not matter. I will give this show a shot, and I will likely enjoy the hell out of it because, again, HBO quality, different tone, different setting in the DCU with Damon Lindelof and Tom King at the helm. Oh, starring Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre. Bring it on. Cannot wait for it. August is going to be awesome. I am excited. I am personally very intrigued and excited for this year in the DCU. Supergirl in June, Lanterns in August, and then Clayface in September, October, I guess, until they make that date official, the new date, if there is a new date for it. But yeah, there it is with respect to my thoughts on that. And I feel like those are the biggest things that have happened with respect to, the last time I did an episode of this show. But hey, I tell you what, if there's anything that I missed that you want me to talk about, we can totally talk about that on Flight Chat, which I will also say that's going to undergo a bit of a format change as well. But hey, if you want to send in feedback and join the feedback circle at Flight Chat, those episodes, when they post, You can find me on Threads and on Instagram at the FliteCast. You can find me on the FliteCast Facebook page. You can comment on the posting right here on YouTube for this particular show, or you can reach me by email at ray@theflightcast.com, and we can have a chat about that. We can talk about whatever things about movies, TV, and other sort of media you would like to talk about with respect to my opinions and whatnot. But I tell you what, that is going to do it for this first video, this inaugural video episode of the FliteCast here on YouTube and here at theflightcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you like what you see. Hit like and subscribe if you want to see more of it. And I tell you what, take care, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.